Hello class, this is Matthew. I'm going to try to sum up the unethical hacking career of Kevin Mitnick in under 5 minutes, hopefully. Okay, by the way, it's 30 years. So, he's born in News, 1963. He figures out how to ride the bus for free by buying a hole punch and dumpster diving for blank slips. He learns about phone phreaking, or gets the general gist of phone phreaking from a friend. Takes computer science class, even though he doesn't meet the requirements, by using phone phreaking tricks. And using that to play video games at university. He plays pranks at McDonald's using a ham radio. Nope, 6. Go to 6. Thank you. Breaks into hacks into the DMV's Centrex phone system by using a 2-part authentication code by lying. First, lying to the police department to get the DMV's information, and then lying to the DMV to get the police's information. Worked out brilliantly. 7. Go to 7, thank you. Alright, breaks into the ARC and looks at the Ritzy's source code by pretending to be a key developer. Him and his friends break into Cosmos by just lying to a security guard that he works there. That easy. Gets arrested, goes to juvie. In juvie, he befriends his counselor, and his counselor says he has a hacking addiction to get him out on probation. Hacks into ARPANET, and 2 things happen. He's labeled the 1970s, 1980s version of a terrorist, and he pleads guilty and goes back to juvie. Takes on the juvie court because they try to send him to a worse prison, and basically gains favor with the adjudicator and wins his transfer case. Transfers to a much nicer prison. Released in 6 months. Afterwards, he buys a police yearbook, which I didn't know was a thing. Apparently, it's still a thing. Also gets a job in the movies for a little bit, but the police yearbooks are now $150, which sounds like a stupid thing if you want to impersonate law enforcement. He's told by his lawyer that the police are closing in and he should disappear for 2 years. He goes on a lam and lives on a farm for 4 months until juvie calls off the search. Goes to college to infiltrate a telephone company and ends up wiretapping the NSA and hacking a different company who, guess what, raids his girlfriend's apartment that he's living at, and he gets arrested and then sued twice. And when they asked him how he did it, he was just like, I tricked the secretary. That was it. Then his hacking partner betrays him to the FBI, and he gets all kinds of crazy charges, like he was stalking a celebrity, and then he hacked into the police department. Could have, he didn't. Moving on. Ends up in prison again for a year. His wife, or his then wife, divorces him. He hacks her voicemails to find out that she was sleeping with his best friend. He moves to Vegas, sees a cool cell phone, tricks the development team into giving him the firmware, so now he can clone phone numbers with a keypad command, which is extremely useful. Then his brother dies from a drug overdose and finds out later that it was his uncle's fault. Then makes a friend named Eric Hines, who turns out to be a dead baby. Then he finds out that Eric's real name, or semi-real name, is Joseph Warnell. Turns out to be an amalgamation identity. And then ultimately he finds out that he's a FBI confidential informant named I'm not going to tell you. Then he flees the Kinkos and goes on the run as a fugitive for a few years, assuming a bunch of identities before finally being arrested in 1995 and eluding the FBI for 2.5 years. He's charged for a bunch of crimes and basically spends 4.5 years in custody without a proper trial, which is important because that violated his constitutional rights under the Sixth Amendment, which guarantees a fair and speedy trial, and made by further controversy by a fake movie that's based on a fake book that basically paints him as a villain. Moving on, there's a movement to free him. There's a great documentary called Freedom Downtime. You can find it on YouTube. It's great. Here's the URL. And in 1999, they finally sentenced him. He's sentenced to 46 months plus the 22 months. Sorry, timer. And that adds up to 5.5 years, but combined with the 4.5 years that he waited to get a proper trial, he only has 1 more year in prison. Yay, math. 2000, he's released January 2000, but he's not allowed to touch a computer for 3 years, but despite that, he's allowed to give speaking engagements and help law enforcement with cybersecurity. And finally, despite all of it, Kevin Mitnick still hacks. He has opened up his own ethical hacker firm, and he basically is given permission to break into places now, which to him is a dream job. He's written several books that give great practical advice. Like PGP stands for pretty good privacy, but it's not free unless you get the open source version. Stuff like that. My references, and this has been 30 years of the most famous hacker in 7 minutes.